Much like turn-of-the-century rap-rock hybrid nu metal bands, the real-time strategy genre has seen its number of releases wane since the early 2000s. But Blackbird Interactive, a development team comprised of a few Relic alum, aims to deliver a new entry into the space with Homeworld, Deserts of Kharak, a prequel to one of the most lauded RTS games of all time. Set 106 years prior to the events of Homeworld, Deserts of Kharak follows Rachel Sajet, ancestor of series protagonist Karen Sajet, as she leads an expedition across the barren expanse to uncover the mystery of an anomaly buried in the sands. Unfortunately, not all of the denizens of Kharak want this expedition to succeed, and thus war is ignited. For players familiar with the story of Homeworld, the quest for the primary anomaly will undoubtedly be one of great importance and gravity, but for new players, there isn't much here to explain what's worth dying for in the middle of the desert. The campaign has a decent amount of mission variety, seeing the player attack, defend, hold out, rendezvous, and explore, but nothing truly memorable. It does do a good job of slowly doling out the units and abilities available, so that there's almost always something new to play with. One of the best new additions is the change to the carrier, or the mothership in past games. The carrier has a new power management system, which requires players to move power between 4 systems: armor, weapon strength, weapon range, and repair speed. Power is finite, and taxing the system can cause the carrier to overheat and take damage, so properly distributing power according to the situation can be very important. The carrier, as well as other units, can also be upgraded throughout the campaign by spending resources, giving them new abilities or staying power. The carrier can be further upgraded with artifacts hidden in wrecks on the map, which encourages a bit of exploration. Speaking of which, one of the most unique aspects of the original game is back again with the units and army composition moving with the player from mission to mission. Deserts of Kharak does offer a welcome fallback plan if players get themselves into a bind by making available a default army at the beginning of every level, so you're never stuck with an untenable army. Another thing that really set the original Homeworld apart was the presentation of the narrative. To this day, that story still possesses a weight and desperation that is difficult to find in the medium, and largely due to its music, flat dialogue, and cutscene production values. Deserts of Kharak nails the music for the most part, with its Middle Eastern influences that go largely unused in science fiction media. The cutscenes are still strong, with a painterly style, strong art direction, and passable camera work, although some are unskippable, which is an egregious offense in some of the harder missions that might require a few restarts. The comm chatter is kicked up a notch, and gives a good sense of humanity to the mission, but with the addition of audio logs, we get an attempt to inject more emotion into the story. The performances, however, aren't always up to the task.
Here, crew morale remains high despite the constant engagement with Gaussian forces. I can't say enough about the men and women who've signed on, risking their lives for this expedition. Our goal feels almost impossible at times, but there is hope.
While the HD remasters of the originals are crisp and gorgeous in their own right, Deserts of Kharak has muddy textures, awful shadow quality, and aliasing issues, even at the highest settings. It's a shame because the environments look good and the designs of the vehicles are definitely unique. Rounding out the package is the multiplayer, which consists of the self-explanatory deathmatch and a unique mode called Artifact Retrieval. The latter is a twist on Capture the Flag, where each team has a designated zone they must bring artifacts to. This means players must divide their forces further between attacking enemy artifact retrieval, defending their own, and protecting their resource operations. The problem is that there are only 6 maps, 2 per player count, which feels like a slim offering. Homeworld Deserts of Kharak continues the legacy of one of the most acclaimed entries into the real-time strategy genre without adding much to the formula. There are a few modernizations when it comes to camera control, but for the most part, Deserts of Kharak looks and feels the same as its predecessors. While the graphics and post-campaign offerings may be lacking and the narrative doesn't quite have the heft of the previous games, it's difficult to separate Deserts of Kharak from the landscape of the genre. Like the Great Banded Desert, it's a sparse landscape. For fans of this type of strategy, Homeworld can definitely give you the fix you need. Just don't expect it to stand out quite as much as the originals.
My name's Toby Dick, Mr. Dick, if you're nasty.